Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I'm here to talk about a little bit of a provocation that is happening from North Korea. Or is it something that we have to analyze to look at what is happening around us and realize that there is probably another front in terms of a heated battle that might just open up in front of us? To find out more, stay tuned. USA seems to be under some pressure in the Korean Peninsula because the North Koreans have been testing hardcore their weapons in terms of their missiles and some even say ICBMs. Before I get into the story, guys, hit the like button, subscribe, check the bell notification so that you get the notifications as soon as the videos come out. This is my 10-minute update for the day. There's also an option for you to become a member by clicking the join button. You can send super chats or super stickers by clicking thanks. And if you like, you can directly contribute towards the Dev Talks efforts by just going to the UPI on the number below your screen. Now, what has been happening in North Korea? One of the things that we see is that massive amount of missiles have been tested. And as a matter of fact, since the beginning of the year, a huge amount of missile testing has been happening in terms of as far as the North Koreans are concerned. Uh, between day before yesterday and yesterday, there were huge amount of provocations. Yesterday, the entire news was pretty much in India, especially in Pakistan and the Indian subcontinent, was overshadowed by Imran Khan. But Pyongyang basically launched 23 missiles in a single day. That has been the most it has ever launched in a single day since history. This included one that landed about 40 kilometers off the South Korean coast. A bit of a challenge, as a matter of fact. A lot of people, as I said, say that there's an ICBM, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile, which is included in this entire thing. One thing that I can't understand is that an ICBM is what is being spoken about, but why would an ICBM be fired on a short range sort of a game? Well, probably some particular thing. I'm not very sure of that. One of these 20 missiles that flew very close to a South Korean island called Uling, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry if I'm messing up the pronunciation. But this particular island had to basically trigger air raid sirens, forcing all the residents to get into either bomb shelters or evacuate to safer places and so on and so forth. There was a bit of a challenge that was created during this particular, missile attack or missile test, if I may. In also a statement, remember, there's South Koreans and the Americans are also doing exercises. I'll talk about that. But in a statement, the South Korean military said that its air force fired some missiles, air to surface missiles from its F-16 and F-15 aircraft near the northern limit line. Now, northern limit line is sort of the maritime boundary between these two countries. And what the South Koreans said is that we've kind of fired at the same distance into the border, inside the border of North Korea, in the maritime border of North Korea, the same distance approximately where they have fired at. So it's sort of a tit for tat, sort of a thing which is happening. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is that there was about a two and a half weeks ago, there's been incidents for the first time of live firing on the borders, which has not happened before. Firing has never taken place unless and until there has been a dissident or somebody like that that has run away from North Korea, that they've opened up firing. But here there was an exchange of light and medium caliber of fire from both the sides, and then it calmed down after some joint meetings actually happened. Now, testing is something a lot of countries do, right? That there's nothing too much about it. We are also doing it a lot of times, but testing is something which happens, and as a matter of fact, the countries who do the testing inform well in advance as to this particular test is happening. This particular test, on the other hand, by the South Koreans and many others, is being called a simulated nuclear attack. In the sense, this is how the North Koreans would probably begin a nuclear attack on their South Korean enemy, if I may. United Nations Security Council, of course, scheduled an emergency meeting to discuss North Korean missile launches on the request of US, Britain, France, Albania, and Ireland. Interesting mix of countries. As I said, this particular thing was discussed, and some sort of a resolution should be coming in as the day goes by. As of now, nothing has come out. The US and South Koreans have been actually doing these exercises. It's a regular sort of an exercise which happens, and there have been cases of military provocations by the North Koreans during this time. But the quantum in which this particular provocation has happened is something that a lot of people are standing up and noticing. The US and South Korean forces have deployed about, I think, 200 warplanes, which include F-35 fighter jets. This particular exercise is known as the Vigilant Storm, and these were initially scheduled till, I think, Friday or Saturday, and now both the allies seem to be discussing as to what needs to be done. And there has been a statement which I'll tell you in a little bit. They said that because of these unprovoked launches and stuff like that, unprovoked in quotes, if there is a military exercise happening close to your borders, I'm sure anybody would be a little spooked about it. So I won't take the unprovoked at the face value, but in response, they said that the South Koreans and the United States said that they would be extending this particular joint air drills, a move Pyongyang immediately branded an irrevocable and an awful mistake. So these were the words used by the North Koreans themselves. Experts say that the North Koreans have been also talking about a nuclear test, which will be the seventh one, uh, which basically brings this particular country to its dream goal of being a full-fledged nuclear arsenal. Not that anybody doubts it, but anyways, that's what they have to say. If I remember correctly, North Korea has conducted tests in 2006, 9, 13, 16, and 17. I might have messed up in one of the dates, but I think it's 6, 9, 13, 16, and 17. Excuse me. My apologies. The Chinese, of course, has obviously supposed to be very close friends and very close, if I may, relatives of the North Koreans. But some interesting things happened when this some time ago there was a resolution which was put up in the United Nations with regards condemnation of the North Korean nuclear tests. Chinese actually voted to condemn it, and Russia abstained from it. Now, a lot of people actually feel that the Russians have more control in terms of North Korean foreign policy rather than the Chinese. It doesn't seem like it on the ground, but a lot of experts kind of believe this, that the Russian government has more of a leverage over North Korea in terms of its foreign policy rather than China. There have been certain tensions between both of these. I won't say tensions, but there have been certain disagreements between China and North Korea in certain places as well. Well, Russia's abstention could be interpreted as a factor that North Koreans also kind of did not go with the world flow in condemning Russia and its position in regards to Ukraine. So they've been standing with the Russians, and they were the first country to kind of recognize the breakaway regions that the Russians have, after a referendum, pretty much amalgamated within its own territories. North Korea, one of the things that North Korea does is it does these tests to ensure that there is a certain level of deterrence that it can maintain towards its adversaries. He probably wants to send a message. It needs to also showcase that, if you do come towards us, there might be issues that you will not like to deal with. It says that these are counteraction measures which are being done with regards to a response that needs to be given to the South Koreans and the United States because of their military exercises that are taking place. So yeah, you can call it a tit for tat military action or a military diplomacy of some weird kind where they fire rockets and provoke each other in some particular fashion. My couple of observations that I want to put across right now, of course, this is a regular exercise, and regular provocations do happen. This time it's coming to notice because of its thought of conducting a nuclear test and the kind of missiles and the quantum of missiles that have been fired. My personal 3-4 points that I want to talk about and my personal analysis is that North Koreans have been trying to get some attention from the world stage. Remember, the entire attention has been overshadowed by the war in Ukraine. It also shows a glaring lack of concentration from especially the United States towards the Indo-Pacific and the various different regions around here. We will also see the Chinese trying to flex his muscles. in terms of all that. And it might also be the factor that the Chinese and or the Russians are just checking to see how alert the United States is in this particular region, with its concentration predominantly facing towards Ukraine today. It also might be that both these countries, or one of them individually, is trying to provoke a sort of a dual hot front for the United States. Remember, again, weapons and this and that, it's going towards Ukraine. Suddenly, if it needs to be rediverted, it's going to be a problem. The South Koreans and US is in a written allied agreement, and which is not the case for Ukraine. So there might be some sort of a provocation from one of these guys to kind of test how ready the US is in terms of responding to any situation that arises in this area. Uh, I also feel somewhere down the line that the North Koreans are trying to kind of establish these launches as a new normal. They want to kind of say that, this is what uh, we are going to do. We are going to be testing our weapons. We're a strong military power, and we will look at doing whatever needs to be done in terms of keeping our borders safe and our country safe. Of course, in at their perception, if you look at it from their angle, they do feel a threat from the US. They do feel a threat from the South Koreans, and of course, they do feel a threat from the allied forces within that region. It's a small country. It has its own issues, and that's what it is. The heading that I wrote for this talk is "Rocket Man is at it again." Remember, Rocket Man was a famous term used by Donald Trump uh, for terming Kim Jong Un, who's the de facto dictator leader of um, North Korea. One of the things that we can actually realize that after that incident where Rocket Man was called and there was a lot of provocation during that time, uh, Kim Jong Un and Donald Trump actually sat down and had a conversation. They met. There was some negotiations that actually took place, and so things did move forward. It also that that so that particular precedence that the North Koreans are trying to gain some attention seems to play into this particular thing. Having said that, attention could be gained with one, two, three missiles, 20 of them the same day. It does raise a particular question with regards to who's behind it. I'll be back with some more details as and when I get them. Tonight we'll be talking about the 1962 war with Colonel Ajay Raina. Don't worry, guys, until unless again, Imran Khan gets shot again, I won't change the subject as I did last evening. That was something that we had to do to discuss the long term impact of Imran Khan and his antics, or the antics against him, as far as yesterday is concerned. Thank you so much for joining me for this short 12 and a half, 13-minute update of North Korea's Rocket Man being at it again. Before I sign off, like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you get the notifications. If you do want to join to become a member of Dev Talks, I'm absolutely proud to say that we've had 3 members joining in yesterday. So between yesterday and day for yesterday, thank you so much, all 3 of you, for joining. It's great to have all of you in the community. Of course, if you guys want to join my WhatsApp group, there's a lot of very, very good conversations that happens over there. It's pure geopolitics and pure strategic affairs. Do send me a mail with your name, somewhere for me to identify you, and your number for me to add you into the WhatsApp group. If you can, do support the Dev Talks efforts with the UPI number mentioned below your screen. See you this evening. Jai Hind.